no matter how old we are, what kind of background we already obtained, we all have the ability to achieve, to learn. And that journey of learning should be enjoyable, right? Like should be you bring back that fun, that excitement into the every step that you're doing. So then you can create continuous momentum. And that's something that I usually talk to people about. I think we really comprehend and then gel well with each other on that level. So what would you share with our audiences when they are in a place of feeling anxious about either in their work or life? How can they use some of your method to turn that around?
Yeah, 2 steps now out of my own experiences. What I normally do is to really figure out when this anxiety came up. Yeah, is it something because of a very stressful?
Hey there, my friend. Welcome to the Powerful and Passionate Healthcare Professionals Podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina. I am a cardiothoracic surgery PA with a background in public health and neuroscience. I'm also your peak performance coach. I had to say no to working extreme long hours where I was always on call and feeling exhausted, underappreciated, and undervalued, and said heck yes to a life and career that elevates my energy and passion without compromising my health and sanity. Now I'm on the mission to support ambitious healthcare professional like you with a demanding career to become a confident leader who are living purposefully and fulfilled to truly be both a powerhouse in your career and a passionate person in life. Let's start our journey today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of the Powerful Passionate Healthcare Professionals podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina. And today we have the honor of having Silke Glaab. She is an international coach, psychologist from Germany. She's a life coach and a hypnotherapist. With her over 15 years of practicing experiences in counseling and coaching, she's particularly known for her work with entrepreneurial growth and success, burnout and stress management, ultimate self-confidence, panic and anxiety issues, and her work with children and teens and parents. With her unique, groundbreaking BrainBoss Method, she is able to uncover the deeper roots of thoughts, feelings, and behavior, and instantly rewire your brain for success and well-being. The BrainBoss Method combines the best tools from hypnotherapy, NLP, systematic constellation, and mind training. And we're so glad to have Silke with us today. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina, for this very warm welcome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so for being here today, I think we connected because we saw each other also linked through social media and some of the speaking that I presented. And I'm glad that we can be able to really serve each other's audiences and be here to support. And I think ultimately this show is for us to build a supportive community. And as healthcare professionals, we are so used to teach only on the clinical side of things. How do we be a best professional, but not so much on how can we be a best person in my own self and to help each other out. So I'm so glad that you're here. And would you like to tell our audience a little bit more about your background and how did you get to where you are right now?
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm actually a psychologist and I have a master's degree in psychology. And before I even chose this subject, I didn't know what to do. So I looked, what could I study? And I could not decide. I was really interested in social science, but also economics and biology. And then the idea came, wow, that's all in psychology, because at that time it was very in to be an organizational psychologist. And before I thought to study economics. So I started psychology and was a little bit boring in the beginning. But then later, when I attended advanced courses, one day I attended a course in systemic work. And when I did that, some issues, like childhood issues, came up. I was not even aware of that. And during that time, there was also a very famous therapist who brought family constellation to Germany. He was also there in the university city I studied. And with this, I figured out that things from my childhood, because we had a business, and after 14 years, the business went into a financial crisis. And the worse the financial situation became, so the mental state of my mom. And in the end, she really had a nervous breakdown that has its epiphany that she threw all the accounting books on the floor and she said, I'm out. I'm totally out. And it took really years to recover from that. And it also had consequences on us as children. Because if you, in this kind of system where you don't know what's happening, and at that time we couldn't even pinpoint what it is. Maybe now looking back after years, you could say it was a bipolar depression. And but it had really unpredictable times. One time very low, the other one very extreme, like manic a little bit. Yeah. So you went along. You learned to cope with the situation. But you have coped with it. Yes, there was some personal growth out of that. But later, I also realized that it really had an impact on me. The relationship side, also what kind of things I chose in my life. I was quite good in when there was chaos or conflict. I could really stand my girlhood or my womanhood. But in other situations, I was very hesitant. And this was the first step. I said, wow, now 10 years later, so many things are coming up and I was able to heal. Then I got a job. I worked as a trainer in a call center, quite famous call center for IT. And then I said, okay, let's go abroad. And I went with development service to Germany on a project on female circumcision. And later I worked for a private company and I realized that all my Kenyan colleagues, they went for university studies after work because they had done their A-levels, but they were not able to study. So they had to find a job first and then study later. And then I said, okay, here I am, the only German lady, and I'm not doing anything. Therefore, I decided to do some NLP work. There was a very good trainings course there. I did the practitioner, I did the master's. And while I'm doing that, I learned that you have also like limiting beliefs. And you can figure out how these limiting beliefs all intertwine with each other. And if you find the knot of the whole network, you can collapse a lot of limiting beliefs at the same time. Or what values, that you're driven by values, that there's a value hierarchy, also feelings. Then later, this lady had even a postmaster course. And so I learned transformational breath so that you can also release emotions through breath work. And with this, I digged even deeper and other issues came up. I said, okay, now I know how to stop limiting beliefs. I can deal with feelings. Great work. And then I came to Dubai and there I did another course that is theta healing. And theta healing, with this, you can even like energetically dissolve beliefs on a very fast level. So these interventions of NLP, they were quite slow and I even didn't understand them fully. But with this, I could use NLP for the digging work, but then release them with theta healing. And later I did hypnotherapy. All of them, they have the same structure. So in hypnotherapy, you go back in time and you find out where the root source of these limiting beliefs are coming from. And then I use theta healing to resolve them very fast. And what also hypnotherapy, that's one part of hypnotherapy. You can go back in time and find the root source of something. Events you experienced and concluded something out of that. And this conclusion you apply to similar events, and then it becomes a thought pattern. And if you use the same thought pattern all over again, it becomes a strong belief. And what you also do in hypnotherapy is now giving positive suggestions. After you have ripped off or erased the old programming, you created a void. And now you can use positive, very powerful words that you are repeating all over again. And the client listens to it that for 3 weeks. Sometimes it's also very instant, but it's good just to get really the new program also into your mind by repetitive listening to really powerful words. Yeah. And then I had finished this one. I said, wow, now I'm really healed. I have done everything. I went back on time. I also learned how to get rid of my limiting beliefs. And then I started entrepreneurship. And I can really say it's a roller coaster. Now, working on my own, not being connected to a team anymore, my partner being in Europe, me seated all by myself in Dubai, it was horrible. And I also experienced moments of anxiety and panic attacks, and I've never had something like this before. I'm very good in mindfulness. I have a very good connection to my body, but nothing worked at all anymore. And then I said, okay, that's very interesting what's happening. And then I also learned you still, though you have healed some things, in certain times it can come back. And then you really need to work with your mind. Yeah. Even it's difficult because you have all these emotions running you in that stressful situation. And even I'm a psychologist. I was not able to come back to my executive functioning over there because the emotional load was too strong. And then I had to really figure out what beliefs I'm just applying at that time that caused this anxiety. Yeah. And this comes in stressful times. I've never had a situation like this before, that you think about the future and you think, oh, I'm alone and what. And the moment I started really to take note, to take really note what my mind or my mind is really telling me. And then finding out that there was a certain pattern. I had many words, but in the end, there was a pattern I discovered. And then after I had written it down, then I could start a dialogue with my mind. Yeah? And with this, I took control again. Yeah, so that's a very brief summary of how I came where I am right now.
I think that's a very extensive and good summary. Really, your method is for us to understand the root cause, because if we don't know what really triggers us, and then it's going to show up later in life, despite how much you have buried under your subconsciousness. And then it's to use your specific beta method to change that so we can get results very fast. And now I think all of us are looking for that quick solution, but in reality, there's a process to turn that around. And we have to remove that limited belief that we are unable, or we have things that are already stopping us from achieving to the next level. That's a limited belief in itself that's harmful for us. Because no matter how old we are, what kind of background we already obtained, we all have the ability to achieve, to learn. And that journey of learning should be enjoyable, right? Like should be you bring back that fun, that excitement into the every step that you're doing. So then you can create continuous momentum. And that's something that I usually talk to people about. I think we really comprehend and then gel well with each other on that level. So what would you share with our audiences when they are in a place of feeling anxious about either in their work or life? How can they use some of your method to turn that around?
Yeah, 2 steps now out of my own experiences. What I normally do is to really figure out when this anxiety came up. Yeah, is it something because of a very stressful situation, your body is overreacting? Or is it something you have experienced over a period of time? If it's something because out of a very stressful situation, I would always advise what I did when I started this entrepreneurship is you really figure out how your current lifestyle is. Yeah. Are you getting enough sleep? How is also like to make your neurons fit? Yeah, that's really to have all the abilities of your brain cells to work on optimum level. Nutrition is also very important. Don't use sugar, not starchy carbohydrates in that time. Social connections, very, very important. Not to feel alone as I did. Yeah, so I reached later out. Some form of activity. Is it like going for a walk? Is it that you go to a gym? Is it yoga? Whatever helps you in that very moment. And discover a form of why. That's for your brain cells. Now the mental skills are coming. An ability to calm down. And what really helps is that you have a worry journal. And in this worry journal, you write down all your thoughts, all these negative thoughts that are running at a certain moment. And you can write them every time when you just take your phone with you or you have just a paper. Whenever such a thought comes, just write it down immediately. In the end of the day, just read through. If this is too overwhelming for you, read them in the morning and start again. Do that for 3 up to 7 days. And then you really find a pattern because the thoughts are not many, but they're coming up in certain nuances. And in the end, there may be 5 very crucial ones, but you have in the first 3 days, lots of things there, yeah? Because this is when anxiety is at its peak. And when you can express it, if you bring it out, then you are in control. And this is what you need because you have 3 phases you're going through. Something you experience as very dangerous. So the first step is adrenaline, noradrenaline are released to make you prepare for the threat ahead so that you can fight, that you can run away or freeze. So everything comes to the core level. And additionally, if you believe you're not in control, then cortisol is released. That also takes havoc not only on your bodily function, but also on your brain. By writing it down, you get control. Yeah, expressing what is inside you. And if you have done that, breathing work. I tried to breathe. I did even meditations, but this didn't help immediately. Only writing it down. This helped as the first step. And then learn to breathe work to calm yourself down. And that's a kind of self-talk. Now the second, yeah.
Yeah, I think that what you pointed out is very crucial. Now, many people think about gratitude journal. You really should have a worry journal, not necessarily just to be stuck in the situation where you're in, but to bring out, be honest with yourself. What you are thinking in your head? The problem when we have about being stuck, being anxious, fear, is that we keep repeating the same story over and over again. We're trying to reason with ourselves. When you actually write it down, then it doesn't seem so fearful because when you write it down, you're giving something more tangible instead of you're creating additional story that might not be true at all. So when you're writing it down, just like Sub was saying, you start finding these patterns and you start finding these themes. So you understand, oh, I am triggered by XYZ. And therefore, next time you go into that situation, you're better prepared instead of feeling like, I don't know what to do, right? Now you're more in a better position to do that. So worry journal, the other thing I would add to that is ask yourself, how valid, how true is that situation, that statement that you just wrote it down? And do the completely opposite. If the situation is flip, right? If the perfect outcome could have presented to yourself versus this terrible outcome that you just written down, how valid is that outcome, right? And then you are actually position yourself in a different spot. Instead of get stuck in a situation, you become the third person. You become your best friend giving yourself advices.
Yeah, that's a beautiful addition. Yeah, to really reflect how true it is and how true is the other one. And with this, you create also a relationship. So you become more like an observer. Yeah, you put yourself out as, so to say, the whole victim of your emotions. And now you become the observer and you relate yourself to the subject. Yeah. So what kind of relationship I have to the subject? Is that true? And what could be another outcome out of that? Yeah, beautiful. Yes.
Perfect. And what's your second step before we wrap up?
Yeah. So the second step is if you have like anxiety for a longer period of time, let it be that you always feel uncomfortable when you're among people or present yourself. Then I recommend to someone to really go back in time to find really the root source of that. Yeah. And often people are in the beginning quite scared. They say, oh my God, what will I find? Traumas. We're looking for traumas. But often these are very simple events. In the most cases of people, I expected now something because they said I had a terrible childhood war. I was prepared a little bit. But then the events that were related to social like anxiety, whatever, were like things, okay, I was in class and I said something, but then the teacher just diminished it and made me feel humiliated. Yeah. Not something really big. Yeah. Or you heard something that an auntie said something to your mother, and then you took it inside yourself and you say, okay, if auntie is saying something like this, then mom must think the same thing about me because they are sisters. And with this, you become aware to say, okay, this was a conclusion when I was maybe 5, 7 years, 11 years. And at that time, it made sense. But now I'm 30. I would react totally different, but I'm still having this old program running. And now I can let it go. I go in and I say, no, I'm not 7. I'm not 11 anymore. Now I would act like this. And then you can erase it and say, now I choose something totally different to a similar situation.
Yeah, I think that's so good, is finding out what was the story that we have told ourselves from earlier on childhood, or even just maybe a year ago, you heard someone talking. Yes. And you thought that was the truth, but you didn't really find out from the main source, because we all have some type of fear of confronting a situation. And naturally, one of our sabotager is avoiding the things that are difficult, or avoiding the things that will cause us feeling worse even, right? And then the way that we do is running away, avoid the conflict. Or do the opposite. Well, if I just want to make sure everyone is happy, I just don't want to raise my voice. But then with time, that resentment builds up, and then you feel like you're unsupported, or you feel like people are actually not looking out for your best interest. And thank you so much for sharing these two critical steps for people. I think our audience can really take away from that. Number one, just quickly recap, is to actually write down a worry journal, right? Things that doesn't serve you. Just write it out. See how truthful that statement or that situation really is. And take a breather, right? Do your breath work and really be in the present of thinking about it, and then think about the completely opposite of that story. Would that be even more valid than the situation you got stuck on? And then, so also shared, let's find out what was the story that you initially started, right? And that might need to take a hypnotherapist or a coach or someone who are really good at drawing out these situations with you, and might not be something you can do by yourself. And that's okay, right? Like if we're in a place that we're open to receive, there's so much opportunity out there that are just right in front of your face. And then we can leverage on these resources. I so appreciate you being here. So how can our audience connect with you if they wanted to talk to you?
Yes, I'm quite active on LinkedIn on my name, Silke Glaab, or on my website, that's BrainBossMethod.com.
Wonderful. We will have all these links that Soap gave us and gave you on our show notes, so you are able to connect with her and learn more about her BrainBoss Method. And I appreciate you guys are listening in. Hope you have a great day. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
All right, my friend. How did you love this episode? Make sure to subscribe to our show so you can continue to build your positive intelligence for that beautiful mind of yours to live powerfully and passionate. I know this is just the tip of the iceberg. You probably have a lot more questions on actually how do I implement those things into my own life? Well, this is the solution. Joining us inside the private Facebook group, go to facebook.com/groups/powerful passionate, where I go live weekly to answer any questions that you have and continue to put more resources for you to help you to get to that point. You can be both powerful and passionate, where you're no longer working on any mundane work and truly focusing on the things that matter. You can be both powerful and passionate, where you can overcome any mental roadblocks keeping you from success. You can be both powerful and passionate, where you feel energized from the moment you woke up to the time you go to bed. Join me, and together we can create a life where you can be both powerful and passionate.